I'm at a title company and I'm about to interview a real-life escrow officer. So whether you're a buyer or seller, you need to watch this. Hi, I'm Special Agent Gary, and I help buyers and sellers in the Corpus Christi region. Well, I'm at Capital Title in Corpus Christi, and next to me is Patricia Smith, who is an escrow officer here. Patricia, thank you so much for your time today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
Oh, now let's go ahead and get to it. I'll just start with the basics. As far as the title, in a nutshell, what is a title company?
A title company is, in essence, an insurance company, but not the type of insurance that you're probably familiar with. Car insurance, auto insurance. We insure the chain of title of real property. We issue two different types of policies, an owner's title policy and a loan policy. And these policies protect the insured against financial loss due to covered items.
Okay, Patricia, so what is escrow and what does an escrow officer do?
Escrow basically means a neutral third party who holds on to money or property awaiting certain conditions to be met. As a neutral third party, we coordinate between the parties to the transaction, whether that is a refinance transaction or a purchase. More specifically in purchases, we coordinate between buyers, sellers, their agents, and a lender if there is one in a transaction. We handle all of the documents necessary for the closing to occur, and once the closing has occurred, we disperse the funds.
What kind of education and training do escrow officers have?
There's not really any formal education to being an escrow officer. And frankly, most of the training comes just from doing. We are required to hold our license, which is issued through the Texas Department of Insurance. We do have to have a surety bond because, of course, we do have access to other people's money. And we do have to maintain the license by taking a certain number of continuing education classes each year.
So I guess if you're dealing with other people's money, you also have maybe a background check too, right?
Absolutely. We have to have a fingerprint background check as well.
Okay. Patricia, when some people think of title, they may think of a document that proves ownership of a vehicle, but in real estate, it's a deed. So why aren't title companies called deed companies?
That's a great question. Title to real property is a little bit different from title to personal property. When you purchase an automobile or a boat or an RV or a mobile home, those are pieces of personal property, and you don't actually obtain title to those properties until after you've paid off any lien that you've created against it in order to purchase it. In real property, title to the properties passes by virtue of a deed. And deeds can be written instruments, and they transfer ownership of the property from one person to another, either with or without a lien.
Thank you. Okay, so for first-time buyers and maybe someone hasn't sold a house in a long time or have never refinanced, they go to a title company. First of all, who's present at the closing? And I know if me as a agent, I'm going to be there for my buyer or seller unless I'm in the hospital or something like that. So can you briefly walk me through the process of a closing?
Absolutely. So in Texas, as opposed to other parts of the country, buyers and sellers don't close together. The agents most oftentimes do come to closing, which we appreciate and we encourage. But usually your buyers and their agent, sometimes the lender will come to the buyer's closing, and then the seller and their agent will be at closing as well. To start the process, we need a contract or an order. Once all parties to a transaction have agreed to the terms of the transaction, the contract is brought to us to be escrowed. So we open up a guarantee file, and then we start the research on the chain of ownership. Once the research is complete, we issue our commitment for title insurance, which is basically our commitment to issue the owners and loan title policies. That title commitment identifies who the record owner is. It identifies any exceptions to the policies that we're going to issue. It identifies any items that need to be cured in order for the policies to be issued, and it identifies who the underwriter is and the cost of the policies that are going to be issued. Now, we work with the buyer and their agent, the seller and their agent, and the lender if there is one, to work towards the closing process. Once all of the curative items have been handled, once the lender's requirements have been met and we receive the loan closing package, we prepare a closing statement. Once that's approved, parties come to closing. The documents that close the file are signed, approved by the buyer's lender, and then once we have the lender's approval to fund the transaction, we disperse the funds. Ultimately, because, as I mentioned, we are an insurance company, our final product is the title policy, whether it be just an owner's policy, just a loan policy, or both owners and loan policies.
So if we're going to a closing as a new buyer, that light at the closing tunnel is very bright.
It is very bright.
Okay.
It is very bright, and we want to get to the finish line as quickly and as painlessly as possible for all parties, buyers, sellers, agents, and of course ourselves.
Right.